Phillies fans can finally breathe. Kyle Schwarber is officially back on a 5-year, $150 million deal. But on the other side of the division, Met fans are in an absolute meltdown mode. Edwin Díaz is gone to the Dodgers, and homegrown star Pete Alonso just walked out the door to the Baltimore Orioles? While the Phillies had no choice but to keep Schwarber, and the real reason Steve Cohen and David Stearns let two franchise icons leave.
Silly pride insists that's all. Andrew Rappin and Wild Bulls. Together they talk sports and dreams. Right behind the scenes. It seems. Fingers and wide. Who the call? Who's the greatest? Who will fall with this rivalry? Now it's here. Join the chat. It's time to cheer. Sports and culture all in one. Catch the fire, feel the fun. Andrew Sistat, glad unite. Philly and Y in the spotlight.
Hey everyone, welcome to episode 85. Had to do this one with the three big MLB stories going on, bombshells in New York and Philly baseball this week. The Philadelphia Phillies were able to retain Kyle Schwarber on a 5-year, $150 million deal as the star slugging left-handed DH is back with the Phils, a move that they had to make. For the Mets, they let two franchise icons leave. Pete Alonso, their homegrown slugging first baseman, is gone in a surprising development or surprising move to the Baltimore Orioles. And elite closer Edwin Díaz departs for the two-time defending World Series champion Los Angeles Dodgers, as the Dodgers just keep on getting better and keep on going, looking to improve. So we'll get into all that. A really wild week in New York and Philly baseball. Obviously great for this podcast. Had to do an episode on this. Sistad was not able to make it, so it's just me going solo. I did text as soon as I saw the tweet. Passon or whoever first was on the was first to report the Schwarber news. I copied and pasted and texted it to Sistad. He's so upset about the Eagles these days. His reaction was yay, sarcastically. So he's not on to talk about this. It's just me. That's the point here. Okay, so massive stories. We'll talk about what these moves mean for each particular team, what they mean for the rest of the offseason, and how if it shifts the landscape of the National League, the National League East specifically. We'll get into all that. So let's start with the Phillies re-signing Kyle Schwarber, because that's the positive of the three news from our New York Philly perspective here on this pod. So Kyle Schwarber, 5 years, $150 million. Here's the thing. I know people want to say it's a DH past 30. Is that an overpay? Look, yeah. Yes. Is Kyle Schwarber the player projecting the next 5 years worth that contract? No, but that's what it took to keep him. Otherwise, he would have left for the Orioles, or he would have left for the Reds. Or it all comes down to this: in free agency, you have to overpay sometimes, and the Phillies needed Kyle Schwarber. If you look at the rest of their lineup, they have guys that they would love to move on from the Castellanos. They have JT Realmuto as a free agent. They have Trey Turner, who's really good. And then they have Bryce Harper, who's really 2 years removed from having an elite and durable season. He hasn't been elite. Harper hasn't been elite and durable in the same season in about, 4 seasons? So they really need that reliable, high-end power bat. And Kyle Schwarber has been that for a number of years now. And really the last 2 years, he's really taken a couple leaps. So he was this solid OBP guy. Not great, but okay OBP guy with high slug. The last 2 years, and specifically this past season, he has elevated that. His OBP's now become like a high-end elite OBP guy. It's not just the slug. I'll give you his ranks the last 2 seasons. So this is 2024 2024 through 2025, the last 2 seasons. This is where he ranks among all major league hitters. OPS 7th. OBP 12th, home runs 3rd, weighted runs created plus 7th, RBIs 2nd, runs 7th, slug 6th, offensive WAR 8th. So, yeah, is it an overpay? Yes. They needed him given the structure of their roster and their lack of reliable high-end bats in that lineup. So they gave him a contract that the market determined he earned, or he was deserving of, and it's what it took to keep him. Phillies did what Dombrowski and the Phillies did what they had to do. They had to keep Schwarber. This offseason starts and really ends if they weren't able to keep Kyle Schwarber. So now that they have him, we could talk about what's next. And I think as much as I'm saying that they had to keep him and it was important and Dombrowski got it done, there's now a lot of pressure on Dombrowski in this front office to move forward, because you make this move, you retain Schwarber, and the pressure's on. They have to win now. I mean, you look at the Dodgers and say, oh, they're this powerhouse. They just got to win Diaz. We'll get into that move in a little bit, but it's important for the Phillies to try to win now. I mean, look, the Dodgers were a powerhouse last year. A lot of, they were inches away from getting knocked out a couple different times. They didn't have the greatest regular season. The Phillies had a better record in the regular season. This is not some crazy unattainable. This isn't like the OKC Thunder in the NBA. The Dodgers can be beaten. It's baseball. They can be beat. So you got to move forward here. They have a lot of needs. They need to address the bullpen. They need to address outfielders. They don't really have outfielders in place right now. They need to address outfielders. They need to address it in a big way. They need offensive production and defense from the outfield. They probably need two outfielders. And they probably need a back-end starter as well, with Ranger Suarez departing. So the Phillies have some work to do. Pressure's on Dombrowski to get it done. They are in a win-now mode. And this, if you weren't sure at all, Phillies fans, this confirms they are serious about winning now. And that means that you can't just say, oh, we got Schwarber back, let's move on. No, they have a lot of work to do. So interested to see what the Phillies will do going forward. But right here, big move. Great job by Dombrowski. Great job by the Phillies retaining Schwarber. And Schwarber gets to spend the rest of his career with the team that he broke out with. Not like broke out in terms of like his stardom, and a place he's clearly comfortable with. So great job by the Phillies. Great job for Schwarber. And he gets his bag, and the Phillies can move on. Now, let's go to the Mets, and let's start with Edwin Díaz. So the Mets lose Edwin Díaz to the Dodgers, 3 years, $69 million. There's some deferrals in there, whatever. You know what the Dodgers do with their contracts to lower the AAV and to keep the players' tax, income tax down as well. So they get very creative, and that's typically why the players are on board when they get to go to a team that's the favorite to win a World Series. The team's working with them to get a lower income tax, save them some money on tax dollars. And yeah, they get to be on a winner. Edwin Díaz goes to the team that's the favorite to win the World Series. So Met fans are still, and when the news broke, were beside themselves. I mean, the reaction on social media, the reaction, I had to listen to some WFAN takes, and it was absolutely absurd. They were just losing their minds. How could we let Edwin Díaz go? How could David Stearns choose Devin Williams over Edwin Díaz? That's, Devin Williams sucks. Like, how could you do this? David Stearns thinks he's the smartest guy in the room. He's an idiot. He's a nerd. All this stuff, right? How could Cohen let this happen? Okay, so a couple things. One, I understand the emotional tie to a player that's been on the team for 7 seasons and has been the best closer in baseball for most of that time. But I'm just going to, because as I'm not a Mets fan, and even if I was, I'd probably still be able to do this, but I'm going to provide like some logic here. Devin Williams is younger, so projecting forward, I don't know, I'm not so confident Edwin Díaz is going to be better. Also, let's just go based on some recent performance. The last 5 seasons. Let's go back the last 5 seasons. So that's 2021 through 2025. WAR, which is not a great pitching stat, but it just shows you a cumulative, and it gives you an idea of the overall production, cumulatively speaking. Edwin Díaz, based on Fangraphs WAR, 8.1. Devin Williams, 7.6. Edwin, as I pull up my stats here, Edwin 2.43 ERA to Devin Williams 2.59. Now, think about this. This is over a 5-year stretch. 2.43 ERA to 2.59, right? Think about this. Devin Williams over that 5-year stretch threw 257 innings. He gave up 74 earned runs. Over that 5-year stretch, Edwin Díaz pitched 244 innings, So that's 13 innings less. He gave up 66 earned runs. 74 to 66, right? That's 8 over 5 seasons. That's essentially 1 more run per season. Think about this. You're losing your minds over going from Edwin to Devin Williams over 1 earned run per season. Just think about it like that. I'll go more. You're going to say strikeouts. Edwin Díaz is an amazing strikeout guy, and he absolutely is. The thing is, Devin Williams also is. Check this out. Strikeouts per 9 over this 5-year stretch. Edwin Díaz, 14.31. Pretty remarkable, right? That's second best in the major leagues to Josh Hader over that 5-year stretch. Guess where, you want to know where Devin Williams is? So Edwin was 14.31 over that 5-year stretch. Devin Williams over the same 5-year stretch, strikeouts per 9, 13.94. Again, think about this. Over, let's just say, a typical high leverage reliever, say 60 innings pitch, just to make it clean. That would come out to 95 strikeouts for Edwin Díaz over 60 innings at 14.31 per 9. 93 for Devin Williams. So 1 more earned run for Devin Williams, or 1 less earned run, Edwin, 2 more strikeouts over an entire season, and you're really freaking out that much? If you just think about it like that, you're like, is this really impacting the amount of wins the Mets will have in 2026? The answer is no, it's not. It's not. And that's without understanding the underlying metrics suggest that Devin Williams was actually very unlucky last year, and he's actually much better, and he's probably going to go back to being a sub-2 ERA guy. Very well, the next few years might be the better pitcher. I actually personally project him to be the better pitcher, but just going based off the last 5 previous seasons, Edwin Díaz is not helping you win more games. So everyone that wants to say that, how do you make, we won 83 games, we need to get better, we can't get worse, this is losing us many more. No, you're not losing more games with Devin Williams as your closer than Edwin Díaz. You're not. And the numbers just show you one more run per season. 2 less strikeouts per season. That's nothing. That's absolutely nothing. It's negligible. Now there's this postseason argument that I heard on WFAN and Mets fans want to make. It's, you could trust Edwin in the postseason. Okay, well, a couple things here. First off, I fully reject the narrative that, or the idea that past postseason performance, while it counts, you get credit for it, and in bad postseason performance, you get criticized for it. The narrative that you use that past performance in the postseason to project future postseason performance, I do not believe that. I reject that ideology completely. Now, for a second though, getting past that ideology, are you sure about Edwin anyway in the postseason compared to Devin Williams? So in the 2024 postseason, Edwin Díaz pitched 8 2/3 innings. He gave up 3 earned runs. He walked 7. He's pitched like 11 innings in the postseason in his career. Like, that's obviously an extremely minuscule sample size. Devin Williams has pitched like 6. So that's, again, like, that's nothing to go off of. Are you really drawing a conclusion and having such a strong opinion based on that? Like, that seems kind of odd. To wrap the Edwin Díaz aspect of the conversation, the Dodgers angle, look, 2-time defending World Series champs. What was their biggest weakness last year is their bullpen, their high leverage bullpen. They go out and they get the best closer on the market. I mean, credit to the Dodgers for that ownership group for keep pushing, not stopping, saying, look, we won 2 in a row. Let's address our biggest weakness. Let's get better. Let's keep spending. Let's keep going. A lot of teams, they win a World Series. They have some great success for a few years. They're like, they become complacent. The Dodgers, great job. Credit to them. And they just keep getting better. And they, of course, will be the significant favorites to win the World Series, significant favorites to win the NL West and win the National League in 2026. Without them continuing to improve this offseason, which I'm sure they will, because of the Los Angeles Dodgers. They have Andrew Friedman, and they have an ownership group that has a strong desire to improve and keep winning. So let's move on now to Pete Alonso. I think this is like the biggest headline, this Pete Alonso thing. So Pete Alonso goes to the Baltimore Orioles, 5 years, $155 million, basically just $1 million more than Kyle Schwarber per year. This one, I Mets fans, I feel for you. This one, I think, is a real gut punch, an emotional gut punch for Mets fans. He was a homegrown player, star player, home run hitter. There's not many really good, like, right-handed power hitters in baseball right now. He's one of the few that you can really rely on to hit 40 plus, to play almost every day. And like, a lot's been being made about how bad he is at the first base as a defender, and he is. But like, let's not forget that first base is one of the least important defensive positions. If you're going to hide a bad defender, you hide them at first base. 40 home run, 800 plus OPS from the right side is scarce in Major League Baseball right now. And there's not someone you could just plug and play in the free agent market, and seemingly not in the trade market either. But although, we'll see what happens with that. But that one's a real gut punch. Now, is he worth $31 million per year through age 35? No, he's not. It's not going to be a good contract for the Orioles at that point. But again, like, if you want to keep the player for now, for the next 2-3 seasons, that's what you have to do. If the free agent market tells you that's what he's going to get, that's what you have to do if you want to keep him. Now, so I do think there's a great 40 home run floor, 800 plus OPS guy. That's a great floor. And I think that the Mets are losing a lot, and it's hard to replace that. And you're not going to replace that specific production. You just got to replace the goal for David Stearns and this team is to become a more balanced team, a better run prevention team. So you replace in the aggregate. You want the goal is to score more runs than your opponents. So how do you do that? You don't necessarily have to. There's different ways to score more runs. There's different ways to give up less runs. So David Stearns is in the process of figuring that out. I think it makes it harder by not having a Pete Alonso behind Juan Soto in that lineup. But I also can understand. So while I understand the Mets fans' reaction, being very upset, I think there's definitely a negative to that lineup and to the roster build. I can also understand the rationale behind it. So David Stearns has talked about the run prevention, and the Mets, and I can understand why you wouldn't want to, why David Stearns looks at the roster and says, I don't want to commit long term to 2 high-end bat, poor defender type players. They obviously have Juan Soto on that 15-year contract. So I can understand why Stearns looks at it and says, we have Soto. Do I really want to commit to the next 5 years to these to have 2 slug, great hitting players, great hitters who are poor fielders? Like, that's a lot of money. It's a lot of roster committed to that type of player. So I can understand why, especially if you're thinking about trying to improve the run prevention, trying to improve the balance of the roster, why you wouldn't want to do that. I understand that. So from that perspective, I completely understand. I completely get it. I'm with Stearns on that, but I also understand the Mets fans' frustration with it. Now, in terms of the one other thing about the contract is, a lot of people, a lot of Mets fans, a lot of people in general say, like, it's Steve Cohen. So if he's paying $31 million a year, at age 34, age 35, 2032, 2033, like, why is he, like, what? That's not $30 million is nothing to him. Like, they can just DFA him, he can eat it, or they can, he can still spend money around the rest of the roster. Like, well, let Pete Alonso be the DH at $30 million a year. What's the big deal? So I think the answer is, like, simply is, Cohen could just DFA him and pay him to get rid of him at that point. He could eat the money. He could do a lot of things where he can continue to spend it on the rest of the roster around it and just be like, okay, we're getting no value out of $31 million. It means nothing to me. I'll move on. I think there's some truth to that. But here's the thing. The roster, having a bunch of roster spots clogged up to players that are not valuable players, having a lot of money, because you could start, this is a slippery slope. You start doing this for multiple players. You have them on your roster. How many guys are you going to DFA? How much money are you really going to eat if you're doing this for Alonso? There's a next player going to do it. Like, you have to draw the line somewhere. And then there's also, like, by doing these signings, you're losing draft picks. You're losing international slot monies. You're hurting your prospect. You're hurting your organizational. And eventually this takes a toll after many years and many signings like this. And again, it's a slippery slope. You have to draw the line somewhere. So while it's true that, like, that $31 million per year to Pete is not a big deal for Cohen, and obviously we know that his net worth, but when you keep doing these types of contracts, it plays a role at some point. So something to keep in mind. So what do the Mets do from here? They have Devin Williams as their closer. They probably need some more high leverage relievers. They definitely need a lot of starting pitching. They need at least 2 starters, maybe 3. They need a real like legitimate number 1 starter, in my opinion. And then they need outfielder help. They traded Nimmo. They have Soto in the outfield, and that's pretty much it. I mean, unless you're relying on these prospects to come up and play right away, I don't think that if you're the Mets, you should be doing that. I think that should be viewed as we're not expecting them to be part of the 26 picture, and if they work their way into it, great. So Mets have a lot of work to do. I do expect them to do things where they're just building this roster where they're better defensively, better pitching, better run prevention, better at contact. Maybe they get maybe they do a platoon at first base. Different ways to make the team a more balanced, a better overall team, but we'll see. The Pete one, I think, hurts the Mets. I understand Mets fans being hurt. The Edwin Díaz one, I broke it down for you. You're being emotional. You're not being logical. It's really not that big of a deal at all. So that's it. We got more coming up next week. Thanks for tuning in. Please give us a like. Please subscribe. We'll see you next time.
Philly pride insists that's all. Andrew rapping and wild bulls. Together they talk sports and dreams. Right behind the scenes. It seems. Stearns and wild. Hear the call. Who's the greatest? Who will fall with this rivalry? Loud and clear. Join the chat. It's time to cheer. Sports and culture all in one. Catch the fire, feel the fun. Andrew, sis, that Brad unite. Philly and Y in the spot.